Hello fellow travelers. Today, we're stepping back in time as we wander through the mesmerizing ruins of Pompeii, a city frozen in history by the dramatic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in AD 79. Now, when you think about getting a glimpse into life during ancient Roman times, Pompeii is the place to be. So, come along with me as we stroll down the very streets that Romans walked on, visiting bustling marketplaces, and peeking into homes adorned with vibrant frescoes that have stood the test of time. If you plan to visit Pompeii in person, you should set aside 3 hours or so to fully immerse yourself in the wonders. This virtual video tour will take about half an hour, but not cover the entire site. As we explore, contemplate the striking similarities between these ancient folks and us today. Ready for an adventure? Grab your virtual passport, because we're about to journey back to the vibrant first-century streets of Pompeii. First, a few logistics. The easiest way to visit Pompeii is to take a train to the Pompeii Scavi station. From there, it is a short walk to the Porta Marina entrance. Also, as you walk towards the entrance, to the left, there are lockers you can put your stuff in, if you have luggage or other items with you. Note, there are 3 entrances to Pompeii, but Porta Marina is the main and largest entrance. You can explore Pompeii between 8:30 a.m. to 7 p.m., but the last entrance is at 5:30 p.m. Not only can you buy your ticket and enter the site here, but you can use the restrooms, buy souvenirs, and get an audio guide. Also, there is an information booth where you can ask questions, get a map and information booklet, and also hire a guide for your visit, if desired. After gathering everything you need at the information and ticket area, you will need to take a short walk to get to the ticket checkpoint. Pompeii is a busy site, with close to 2.5 million visitors every year. So if you are fortunate enough to have flexibility in planning your visit, go in the early morning, as soon as it is open, and also try to go on a weekday as opposed to a weekend. Once through the checkpoint, you will start a walk uphill towards the original city gate. This iconic city was birthed right here on this hill, and as we head in, recognize that you're stepping into history. Dating back to about 600 BC, Pompeii has its roots intertwined with both Greek and Etruscan influences. Over time, the city transformed into a vibrant Roman hub. Think of it as the quintessential Roman every town, not opulent, not impoverished, just the heart of typical Roman daily life. By the 1st century AD, with Rome's expansive control over the Mediterranean, Pompeii blossomed into a thriving port city. In fact, before Mount Vesuvius erupted and dramatically altered the coastline, the sea came right up to the city walls. Hence the name of this original passageway, Porta Marina, or Marine Door. Notice that the entrance has dual archways. The smaller one was for pedestrians, and the larger one was for horses and pack animals. Today, we enter the city through the larger archway. During ancient times, the city would have had both doors open during the day to accommodate bustling commerce. At night, the larger archway would be closed for better security. This gateway stands out as the most impressive of the 7 entrances that once marked the perimeter of the historic city walls. Just as bustling today as it was in ancient times, this marine door served as the primary passage between the lively city and the busy harbor. The tunnel is a single concrete barrel vault and opens out to the ancient street called Via Marina. As we continue our walk, on our left, we see the remains of what once were private dwellings. It is amazing to think that we are entering Pompeii on the same main street the ancients used. The town was arranged on a grid of streets, creating blocks called insulae. And similar to street blocks today, several independent houses were built on each block. Admiring the streets themselves, we notice the sturdy basalt stones beneath our feet. These are the very Roman roads that once echoed with the sounds of ancient horses and wagons. And similar to streets today, Romans built elevated sidewalks, not only for the safety of pedestrians, but also used to cleverly conceal the city's intricate plumbing system. Innovatively, bits of old broken pottery and reflective white marble were mixed into the sidewalks. This practice not only recycled old materials, but the marble bits, called cat's eyes, lit up the sidewalks at night to help people get around after dark. We pause to examine 3 elevated stones in the middle of the street. This is a fascinating relic of ancient urban planning. Think of them as Pompeii's version of a pedestrian crosswalk. Each day, the cities would clean the streets with water. Thanks to these stones, people could cross the streets without getting wet. Chariots during that time had axles of a consistent width, allowing them to gracefully pass through these stones. Finally, a single stone denoted a one-way route, a pair of stones indicated a standard two-way street, and the three stones we just saw marked a grand thoroughfare. At the end of Via Marina, we reach the famous Forum, the spacious main square of Pompeii. As we stand here looking north, we see the looming silhouette of Mount Vesuvius. Take a moment to soak in the panorama, the sprawling ruins, the vast expanse of this square, and that ever-watchful volcano on the horizon. This square, or Forum, was Pompeii's beating heart. It stands at the intersection of the city's two primary thoroughfares. Though time's passage has left its mark, diminishing its former glory, envision it bustling with Pompeii's 20,000 residents, draped in their togas and tunics, engaging in commerce and camaraderie. Two-story buildings surrounded this Forum, and statues once lined the square. As we walk towards the far end, we see some broken columns atop a staircase. This was the Temple of Jupiter, and if you walk up close, you can catch a glimpse of Jupiter's white marble head at the back of the temple. Pompeii, quintessentially Roman in design, was like all other typical Roman cities. It had the same layout and components, including a main square at the axis of roads, temples, shops, and as we see here, opposite the Temple of Jupiter, a curia, or city hall. Next to the city hall, we also find the Basilica, or courthouse. This square was not just a marketplace but a hub of democracy, where people voiced their opinions and voted. Imagine the city's vibrancy, gleaming white buildings in the square, reflecting prosperity. All destroyed on August 24, AD 79. Just 5 miles north of Pompeii stands Mount Vesuvius. Mentally draw a triangle up from the two remaining peaks to reconstruct the original cone shape, altered after the eruption. The day it exploded, it propelled a colossal column of ash and debris 12 miles high. Despite prior tremors, Pompeii's residents were caught off guard, unaware they lived beneath an active volcano, as it had been dormant for over a millennium. For 18 relentless hours, ash rained down, shrouding the city and leading to the entombment of 2,000 of the 20,000 inhabitants. Buried for centuries, Pompeii was rediscovered in the 1600s, and its excavation offers an unprecedented snapshot of that fateful August day in 79 AD. Mount Vesuvius is still an active volcano, having last erupted in 1944. We turn back to Pompeii's ancient courthouse, or as they called it back then, the Basilica. This isn't just any building, it's a glimpse into the legal system of the first-century Romans. As you look around, notice the familiar layout, a central hall flanked by columns, similar to many of the basilicas you'd find in later Christian churches. Interestingly, those column stumps are all cut to the same height, not by design, but because they were interrupted by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in AD 79. Back then, this basilica was undergoing repairs from an earthquake 17 years prior. Now, if you look closely at these columns, they showcase Roman ingenuity. Bricks, stacked uniformly around a central core, were finished with stucco made of marble dust to make them look like solid marble. This was a budget-friendly approach popular in Pompeii and across the Roman world. That being said, the city wasn't entirely frugal. The side walls of the basilica boasted genuine marble panels, some remnants of which you can still spot today. Pompeii not only withstood earthquakes and eruptions, it also survived looting by Spanish souvenir hunters and World War II bombs. Paradoxically, it was the very eruption that buried it, that also preserved it, shielding it from 6th century barbarians who plundered many other Roman towns. Next, we exit the basilica heading back to the Forum. Walking across the Forum, you will reach a street that connects to the square. Heading a bit down Via Abbondanza, look far down the street to get an idea of the scale of this city. You'll also notice 3 strange protruding stones right here in the middle of the road. These, beaver teeth, stones prevented chariots from entering, ensuring the street remained exclusively for pedestrians. Much like the bustling pedestrian zones we love in modern cities, this was Pompeii's main shopping and nightlife hub. Romans, always ahead of their time, understood the charm of pedestrian-centric areas. As you walk the street, you can imagine Via Abbondanza buzzing from dawn till dusk. Pompeii wasn't a quiet, serene town. It was alive, vibrant, and sometimes even a bit rough around the edges. Here, the elite lived next door to the ordinary. This main street was filled with bakeries, brothels, and a myriad of eateries, serving the diverse needs of its 20,000 residents. Pompeii wasn't just a city, it was a melting pot of life, commerce, and culture. We head back to the Forum, and go to the opposite corner, to reach the Granary, an ancient produce market. Unfortunately, during our visit, it was under renovation, but if you are lucky, it will be open. It is now a repository for thousands of artifacts unearthed from Pompeii. Among the artifacts are various utensils like crockery, pots, pans, jugs, and containers once used for oil and wine. Additionally, you can see haunting plaster casts of eruption victims, including both people and animals. These casts freeze the final moments of Pompeians, their bodies contorted in a protective stance, trying to shield themselves from the deadly volcanic gases. The victims were swiftly overwhelmed by the intense ash and gas, leaving voids beneath the ground as their remains decayed. Using a delicate method of filling these voids with plaster, modern archaeologists have immortalized these individuals, offering a tangible connection to the tragic events of that fateful day. Left of the granary, you'll find an alcove with a counter known as the mensa ponderaria. This was an ancient measuring station containing bowls of standard units, akin to today's liter or gallon, ensuring accurate measures of both liquid and solid goods sold here. Right of the granary, you'll find the remnants of a communal restroom. Glimpse inside, and you can visualize the rows of seats, the communal nature of the space, and the continuous water flow that once ensured cleanliness in this bustling city center. Next, we visit the Temple of Apollo, which is just south of the granary. It is one of Pompeii's oldest places of worship. Positioned strategically on the path leading to Marina Gate, it stood at the heart of the city's public life. This sanctuary traces its origins back to the 6th century BC, showcasing Pompeii's connections to both Greek and Etruscan cultures. Over time, the sanctuary underwent significant renovations. By the time of the city's fateful eruption, it stood as a temple atop a platform, surrounded by a portico. Within its courtyard, an altar took center stage. A grand colonnade connected the sanctuary to the bustling forum, hinting at its central role in Pompeii's religious and civic life. The sanctuary wasn't just a place of quiet reflection. It witnessed the excitement of gladiatorial games and the cultural richness of theatrical performances, especially during the Ludi Apollinaires festivals. These celebrations honored Apollo and his twin sister, Diana. We will now leave the forum to explore the city. Head north on the right side of the Temple of Jupiter. Passing beneath an arch, you will hit some familiar, beaver teeth, road barriers. Looking at the pillar to the right, you find an ancient sign showing two individuals gracefully carrying an amphora. This indicates that this is a pedestrian-only area. We will be heading to the baths of the forum. Continue walking past the contemporary cafeteria. This is the only dining establishment within Pompeii, so if you want a bite to eat or drink, inside, you'll find a delightful coffee bar and restroom facilities. We will be exploring one of 6 public baths in Pompeii. In ancient times, bathhouses were a sanctuary for both bathing and relaxing. A place where one could cleanse and revitalize, either before starting their day, or winding down at the end of it. The entrance is marked as number 24, and is on the left, about 20 yards past the cafeteria. As we step in, we are in the men's section of the bathhouse. Each bath had separate areas for men and women. Emerging from the entrance hallway, we're first greeted by a serene, green courtyard. This was the ancient gymnasium. Here, visitors could work out before the baths. From the courtyard, we walk to a room that served as the changing area. Notice the holes in the walls, they used to hold pegs for hanging clothes. Turning around and looking up, under the window, you can make out a faint picture of Neptune. Under the Neptune window, to the right, there is another doorway. This is the doorway to the frigidarium, or the cold pool. The frigidarium was a circular room covered by a dome, allowing ample light through an oculus at the top. It has 4 corner niches, which probably held statues, and a round pool for the cold plunge in the center. Turning around, we head to the next room. This will be the tepidarium, or the warm bathroom. As you admire the room, look up to the ceiling. Half of this ceiling was destroyed in Vesuvius's eruption, while the other half remains beautifully preserved. Admire the intricate blue and white stucco designs that tell tales of Pompeii's grandeur. If you take a look around, you will notice small statues of male figures, dividing sections along the walls that served as lockers. The tepidarium was where patrons would acclimate to warmer temperatures, possibly relaxing on the bronze benches or even indulging in a massage near the bronze heater. We continue our bath tour to the next chamber, the steam bath, or caldarium. The Romans were amazing engineers. In this room, there is a double floor that was heated from below, providing warmth for visitors as they walked with bare feet. Romans would relax in this large tub, which was filled with steaming hot water. Similar to the floor, the double walls, adorned with terracotta tiles, effectively retained the comforting heat. Also, as we look up at the ceiling, we notice grooves were strategically added to prevent condensation from dripping on patrons. Fluting or ribbing skillfully directs water down the walls. Across from the tub, a fountain added to the ambience by gently spilling water onto the heated floor, generating steam. If you look closely, you can see an inscription around it. It names the politicians who funded the baths and the exact amount they contributed, 5,250 sestertii. Turning around, we head back through the multiple bathrooms, to the exit on the other side of the frigidarium. As we saw, the forum baths were publicly funded and free to use, making them accessible to all citizens, regardless of social class. Situated directly adjacent to the forum, the political and religious center of Pompeii, the baths served as a crucial meeting point before and after public gatherings. We exit the baths, and head directly across the street, to see a series of rectangular marble counters. After indulging in a relaxing bath, satisfying your appetite is only natural. As such, these rectangular marble counters were essentially fast food establishments, situated strategically here, near the baths and the forum. In ancient Rome, most people didn't prepare meals in their tiny homes, making takeout spots like this quite common. Think of them as the Julius in the box, Maxis's, and Burger Emporium of their time. The holes in the counters served as receptacles for pots filled with various foods. Each container functioned like a thermos, complete with a wooden lid to maintain the warmth of the soup, chill the wine, and keep unwanted guests, like rodents, away from Caesar's McNuggets. If you look at the stones in front of the counters, the groove you see was for the shop's folding accordion-style doors. Out on the curb, look for little holes. These likely accommodated cords for stretching awnings over the sidewalk to shield clients from the hot sun. In the street, look at the wheel grooves in the pavement, worn down through centuries of chariot traffic. You'll also see more of those stepping stones pedestrians used to hopscotch across flooded streets. Right next to the stepping stones is the house of the tragic poet. This is a typical Pompeii home with a classic Roman floor plan. It was flanked by two family-owned shops, each equipped with tracks for collapsing accordion-style doors. Looking down the narrow entryway, you see the atrium, with a rain-catching pool. Examining the entrance more closely, on the floor is a famous mosaic bearing the warning, Cave Canem, translated as, Beware of the dog. The house was closed, so we were not able to enter, but if you have the opportunity to go in, you'd see the rooms unfold in a linear arrangement. The atrium is followed by a den, where the shopkeeper engaged in business transactions with customers. The garden comes next, surrounded by various domestic rooms, including a shrine honoring both gods and family ancestors. Since the house was not open, we head back past the fast food counters and head to the big intersection. As we walk, we can mention a little more about what you would have seen inside the house. Adjacent to the garden, you would have found a richly frescoed dining room. There was also a modest barbecue-style kitchen, with a nearby closet serving as the toilet. In typical Roman fashion, the kitchen and bathroom shared the same plumbing and were often placed side by side. At the intersection, you will find a grand arch on the left. Looking through it, you get a view that perfectly frames Mount Vesuvius in the distance. Water, a lifeline for the city's 20,000 residents, played a crucial role in Pompeii, and this arch was a vital component of its water delivery system. A lengthy aqueduct transported fresh water from the hillsides to a sizable reservoir situated at the highest point of the city wall. Faced with less than ideal overall water pressure, the ingenious Pompeians devised arches like the one before us as intermediate stations. Originally clad in marble, this brick arch concealed a water tank at its summit. From the other side of the arch, we can get an idea of the main reservoir's water cascading downhill into the tank of this arch, ensuring the neighborhood below enjoyed a consistent and reliable water supply. Now, with the arch to your left, continue walking downhill about 50 yards. On the left-hand side of the street, there is a house with a number 2 on it. This is our next destination, the House of Faun. The House of the Faun, or Casa del Forno in Italian, is one of the most impressive residences discovered in the ancient city of Pompeii. It is one of the largest houses in the city, with an area of 27,000 square feet and 40 rooms. This vast size indicates that it was owned by a wealthy aristocrat. As we stand in front of the impressive entranceway, look down at the pavement. You will see it is decorated with red and white stone with the Latin message, Have, meaning, hail to you, or, be well. We actually enter the house, through an opening, to the right of the entranceway. If you look back as you enter, you can see two shrines above the entryway. One is dedicated to the gods, the other to this wealthy family's ancestors. After entering, in the house courtyard, we find the charming, albeit small, statue of the dancing faun. This small statue is celebrated for its lifelike motion and exquisite proportions. It's worth noting that what you see is a replica. The authentic piece is housed in the Archaeological Museum of Naples, which also holds numerous other statues, frescoes, and mosaics from Pompeii. We continue to walk further into this magnificent house. The next stop is an amazing floor mosaic, renowned for its depiction of the Battle of Alexander. Again, this will be a replica, as the original is housed in the Naples Museum. Picture the scene, it's 333 BC, and the legendary Greek warrior, Alexander the Great, confronts Darius and the Persian forces. On the left, you'll see Alexander, recognizable by his curly locks and distinctive sideburns. Positioned centrally is Darius, he is the one with the beard, seated in his chariot, adorned with a turban. Alexander stands out as the sole figure without a helmet, symbolizing his unparalleled prowess and dominance on the battlefield, contrasting sharply with the evident desperation of his adversaries. This significant confrontation marked Alexander's triumph over Darius, paving the way for the expansive Greek Empire, eventually inherited by the Romans. It's evident from such sophisticated adornments, alongside pieces like the dancing faun statue, that while many in Pompeii flaunted ostentatious tastes, the resident of this particular dwelling truly appreciated elegance and historical depth. We leave the House of Faun the same way we entered, turn left, walk a block, and turn left again. At the end of that block, at the intersection of Vicolo dei Vetti and Vicolo di Mercurio, you will be able to see the remnants of some ancient pipe. They are enclosed within some protective metal cages, but if you peer inside, you should be able to get a good look. Crafted 2,000 years ago from lead sourced from Roman Britain, these pipes were a marvel of ancient engineering. The water, channeled from an elevated tank, served three distinct networks: bathhouses, affluent residences, and community wells. In times of scarcity, the city first shut off the baths, then the private homes. The public fountains were shut off last, ensuring all citizens had access to water for essential needs as long as possible. After viewing the pipes, turn back north on Vicolo dei Vetti. Just a few steps up the block, you will reach our next house. The House of the Vetti. The House of Vetti is perhaps the most well-preserved house in Pompeii. The house was the bachelor pad of two prosperous merchant brothers, Aulus Vettius Conviva, and Aulus Vettius Restitutus. It is believed they were once slaves, who became wealthy by selling wine and agricultural products after they were freed. As we walk into the entryway of the house, we are greeted with a bit of a startling fresco. The Greek god of fertility and abundance, Priapus, is depicted weighing his own phallus against a bag of money. It might symbolize the socio-economic aspirations of the Vetti, and suggest that their ambitions differed from more prominent families in Pompeii. As we head into the atrium, we notice a pool in the center. Gazing up, we also see an open ceiling, letting in both light and rain. This clever design provided a bright opening, along with a built-in water supply. Strategically placed on both sides of the pool were hefty money boxes. This prominently showed off the Vetti brothers' wealth, and also the fact that they might have dabbled in money lending. We exit the atrium to the right, into a series of rooms that offer a glimpse into the life of Pompeii's inhabitants. The first room is a narrow servants' quarters. There is an interesting shrine on the left wall, of dancing lares and a sacred snake. The lares, depicted as dancing men, were household gods associated with protection in Roman culture. They were responsible for safeguarding various aspects of life, including homes, fields, and cities. The presence of the sacred snake in the fresco symbolizes fertility and prosperity, as snakes were associated with the land's fertility. Continuing past this space, we enter the kitchen area. On the back wall, you can find an exposed lead pipe, showcasing the advanced engineering of this ancient city. Roman kitchens were equipped with hearths, ovens, and storage areas for ingredients. Finally, in the back corner, you reach a small chamber adorned with erotic frescoes. It was perhaps used as a bedroom or private brothel. After exploring the erotic bedroom, kitchen, and servants' quarters, head back to the atrium. From there, we will venture into the expansive colonnaded garden. It has been replanted with the very same plants discovered on the site by archaeologists. we will walk around the courtyard in a counterclockwise fashion, examining each of the chambers. First is the dining chamber, adorned with frescoes in the distinguished hues of black and red, famously recognized as Pompeian red, derived from pigments of iron rust. Take a moment to admire the intricate details of the artwork. Cast your gaze downward, observing a black, lead, humidity seal, strategically positioned between the wall and floor, ingeniously designed to safeguard the frescoes from moisture, ensuring their preservation. Continuing counterclockwise around the courtyard, the next section we find consists of two rooms, facing what once was probably a garden. The rooms are on the right as you enter, and the first room was probably a triclinium, or dining area, connected to the second room, which was probably a cubiculum, or private room for sleeping or business. As mentioned, they both face a pleasant, open area that was probably used as a garden. We head back out to the courtyard and jump into the next room, which was probably a dining room or sitting room. As we step into this room, take a moment to marvel at its intricate ornamentation. Dominated by the distinctive hues of black and red, the walls have an array of painted figures, including charming cupids and depictions of heroic figures like Poseidon, Apollo, and Daphne. We hit the next room at the most northwestern corner of the house. It is believed that it may have been a storage area for items in need of repair. We continue our counterclockwise walk around the courtyard. As you can see, the courtyard was a large and central part of the house. The walls had paintings decorated with plants, and based on artifacts found, the garden was decorated with fountains, statues and pools. Almost all of the statues found during excavation were marble. 2 were bronze. The use of such expensive materials and the impressive design of the garden was a way that the Vettis showed off their wealth to others in Pompeii society. The exit is straight ahead, at the southeast corner of the courtyard. The last room we will be looking at is right next to it. This room is painted in yellow and has more frescoes, including one of Heracles as an infant. The paintings demonstrates the amazing capabilities of Pompeii's artists at the time. They were already masters of perspective, 1,500 years before others in Europe. This room was probably a salon of some sort or a dining room. After admiring the yellow room, you can exit the house of Vetti through the opening just to the right of the room. For our next stop, we will check out what once was a bakery in the city. Along the way, we will pass a fountain decorated with a bull's head. To get there, from the entrance of the house of Vetti, we will head south on Vicolo del Vetti until we reach the end of the street. This is the intersection of Vicolo del Vetti and Via della Fortuna. A little to the left, we continue down Vicolo Sorto until we reach the bakery. As mentioned, once you hit the end of Vicolo del Vetti, you will be at the intersection with Via della Fortuna. Turn to your right to see the stone fountain with a bull's head for a spout. In the vibrant buzz of Pompeii's urban life, intersections like this were bustling neighborhood hubs, where houses were expensive and people gathered. From the bull's head fountain, you will take a few steps east, down Via della Fortuna, and then turn to continue south on Vicolo Sorto. Head down Vicolo Sorto until you reach number 22, on the left side of the street. There, you will find 4 big stone cylinders that were flour grinders for the bakery. Grains were poured into the top section, and donkeys, or slaves, would turn the grinder in a circular motion using wooden bars. The powdered grain emerged at the bottom, transformed into flour. If you look to the left, you will find a traditional brick oven. It is amazing that modern pizzerias still use ovens like this today. Each neighborhood would have a bakery similar to this one. With that, we were running out of time, so we're only able to pass by one last stop before we left Pompeii, the Taberna Hedones, or tavern. To get there, we headed south on Vicolo Sorto, to the end. Then, turning left on Via de Augustali, about 150 feet down the street, you will find number 44 on the left. This is the Taberna Hedones. We did not have time to peek inside, but if you did, you would see the original floor mosaic. And with that last quick glimpse, we had to head out of this unbelievable sight. Still to see would be a famous brothel and a theater. As mentioned, set aside some time if you visit in person. As always, thanks for watching. Please like, follow, and subscribe.